Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending this evening session around space tech. So we are very excited to be here to talk about our industry. This is even very a good story for us because this is the first time we are attending the COP event as a space industry in this wonderful pavilion. This session will be informative for you. So hopefully we will have some questions and answers by the end of the session to get a sense of what we are doing in promoting and helping the indigenous communities around the world. So basically what we are trying to do is empowering at-risk and indigenous communities through capabilities and building technology for adaptation and mitigation of the impact for climate change. So YASAT as a company, so we are a homegrown company out of the UAE. So we've been in the industry for around 2 decades now, and we are trying to help the organizations, the enterprises, governments, local populations, communities to leverage the technologies that we have and to service them in order to bridge the digital divide that is happening around the world. And more specifically, there is a divide that is happening where terrestrial communication are not fulfilling the communication side or the obligation. So we are coming into the picture to bridge this gap and bring the services around communities. So we've been the partner of choice for innovative solutions, specifically for space tech, for several years. And to give you an insight of what we are, so we, as I said before, we are a homegrown company. So we are a satellite operator in the space tech. So in the space tech, you will find different actors. You will find launchers. You will find satellite manufacturers. And on the other side, you will find satellite operators. So we are on this side of the picture where we deliver services, and these services can come from voice and data services to all the way to solutions to communities. So YASAT specifically has been a leader and on the forefront of the technology for the several years past. We are the partner of choice of several countries around the world to bring these services. We are enabler of technology, so we bring coverage into areas where there is no coverage, and specifically in areas like Europe, Middle East, Africa, Asia, and Australia. We have in our footprint around 150 million or 150 countries, and 2/3 of these communities, or around 2 billion or 3 billion of customers are in this area. So you can imagine the number of population or the local communities that are using our services and solutions to enhance their everyday life. At the same time, we are the #1 provider of services or broadband services in Africa. We are also one of the leading provider of services in the government and the commercial sector. And more recently, we've been very enthusiastic and very focused around the consumer service, where we're trying to bring new solutions and new services for the local communities. So to give you an oversight of our coverage, so basically, as I said before, Europe, Middle East, Africa, Europe, and Australia. So we have this service through a different kind of satellites, but these are all geo satellites. So for those of you who are not familiar with the geo satellite, these are satellites in orbit where they move at the same pace of the Earth. So they look exactly at the same footprint or the same region around the clock. So that's what's help us extend our coverage to very large areas in our footprint. So we operate a fleet of 5 satellites. The three of them are in the KU and the KA band. And these bands, you will see that they have different purposes. So the KA and KU band are specifically designed to operate for broadband services, whereas we have other services in the narrow band using 2 other satellites, L-band, that are providing voice and narrowband services, and that includes IoT services as well. So since we've been in the space industry for the last 2 decades, since inception, we've tried to, let's say, enhance our footprint and services around the clock and bring into the ecosystem new product, new applications that serve our partners and local communities. So we moved on from having 2 satellites to 3rd satellite to the 5th satellite, and now we are on the verge of extending and enhancing our satellites with a new satellite coming in 2024, 2025, and then 2 additional satellites that will come on board by 2027, 2028. So for the space tech solutions, so what is our role exactly? So security first. So we are bringing the security part for the ecosystem and populations. So that means that the government, enterprises, local communities can monitor ports, airports, villages, critical infrastructure, whatever you want to call it, to provide and to secure the local populations. The second aspect is expertise. So we have an ecosystem of partners and homegrown expertise that brings in to the partners and the governments solutions and services that can help solve specific needs and specific requirements with regard to the populations. Third aspect is the information. So local communities can use the data services, for example, to be aware about what's happening because they are usually in an underserved or non-served areas. So this information is brought on from satellites, so like weather forecasts, internet access, any other type of information that they may need on the ground to understand specifically what's happening around their regions. Fourth aspect, operations. So we serve many industries and many local communities, so the services and operations of in these industries is becoming more efficient with the satellite operations. So imagine that there are industries working remotely in underserved and non-served areas, in the desert, in the mountains. You have utilities, you have oil and gas, you have pipelines everywhere, you have boats and ships operating around the world. So all these infrastructure is helping these kind of industries achieve an optimal operation. Last is a network. So the network aspect is very important. So that's why we bring in a bunch of technologies. So from fixed and mobility side with different type of requirements. So from Miasat Technologies perspective with specifically, since the subject is about empowering communities. So first of all, what we are bringing to the local communities is connectivity. So imagine village or a local population or a population in disaster or a population with a certain type of catastrophe doesn't have access to a normal GSM phone and or to a basic internet service. So that's where our role comes in. So we are bringing this piece to the ecosystem where populations have access to this connectivity part. Second and most important aspect is the reliability of the service. So we are bringing connectivity, but we are also bringing reliability. So these populations can rely on us to bring in, to either to be informed or to bring back their voice or the messages or whatever you want to call it to other parts of the world. Third thing is the uniqueness and the reliability and of course the quality. So we are basically operating as an agile company. So we talk to these populations through either directly or through our service partners. We know exactly what's happening and we are informed, and that's why we embrace these local populations. We know exactly what they need and we're trying to be unique in terms of service. Affordability, an important aspect of the service for the populations. So we are bringing in a service that is affordable. So space tech is not known or maybe misunderstood by a lot of industries, but affordability is there, and it means that many services are within the budget of many local populations, be it through the government, local NGOs, or specific local communities that help these communities to get connected. So before we were saying we are empowering communities, but we were saying it in a kind of an informal way. So we were saying we are saving and improving lives. So the shift has come in the past few years where we decided to put everything into a framework. So this framework or this sustainability framework, the objective of it is to cascade this vision into the culture and into the decision-making of our company, but also into our service partners' community. So this is what drives us every day. This translates into an ESG policy, and we are now part of the S&P Global Index. We are also part of Sustainalytics Index, and we are also part of MCIS or MCIS kind of rating. So we are starting this journey to be one of the space tech companies at the forefront of ESG. I don't want to make it complex for you, but this is just how we build this framework that cascades from the vision to the international vision, to the local vision, and to the goals and individual objectives of our company to understand exactly what is our role vis-à-vis the communities. So we are trying to address this through a complex framework, but at the same time, it's easier to understand from employee perspective, but also from our service partner and ecosystem perspective. So in this framework, we decided to have 5 CSR goals or objectives. So first one and foremost is to connect the communities. The second one is to solve societal challenges. The third one is to empower individuals. The fourth one is to engage employees, and the fifth one is to protect the environment. I will focus on the three main goals that we decided we want to bring in to you as a core example of how we implemented or how we cascaded these goals into reality. So first objective, connect communities. So one of the solutions, which is the marine tech that we are using, so we know that populations are facing challenges, weather challenges, floods, hurricanes, many other weather challenges. They may face disasters, earthquakes, volcanoes. All of these is impacting local communities. So these sudden incidents usually have an impact on these local communities. The first thing is they are in desperate mode. They don't know what they do. But this is where we are bringing our piece of knowledge and piece of service, where we are trying to solve their problem. We are the first and at the front seat of servicing these communities, because usually the GSM networks are not working, so everybody is calling us to provide this service. So I'll just highlight we start with one video that showcase how we are saving these communities or how we are saving populations, and I can go next to another example.
So yung nakita ko na yung bangka, yung pumasok na yung dagat sa nakita ko na ganyan. So pagtingin ko sa mga tao ko, mga kasama ko na 6, di sad, umiiyak sila, umiiyak. Sabi niya, ano nang gagawin natin? Sabi ko sa kanila, huwag kayong matakot, magpanalangin lang tayo sa Diyos. So naisip ko, yung boss namin, before we sail, he gave me a sat phone in the back. So, kinuha po yun at inon ko. Pero walang siya load. So, after 5 days, I turn on. Oh, I hope the miracle, they call me. Doon, so that, then after I on, 1 hour to 2 hours, they call. I'm crying.
After we provided the credit, we still couldn't get the exact location of the 7 fishermen because they don't know how to do that. We contacted YASAD, and after that, we relayed the message to the captain of the ship, and they were able to do the steps that we provided and extract the location, and that is the time that they were able to provide the location to the Philippine Navy and Coast Guard.
And I mean, they went through so much in the past few days that they were drifting on sea, and that phone, the technology that was used to give their location, gave them a glimmer of hope. So for Christmas, hearing their story really means a lot to us.
First example around saving lives. So this is one of the main purposes that we breathe every day. So we kind of receive distress calls or kind of communications where we have to help local communities regularly. So we are bringing this piece of action or piece of service to help these communities and help also the governments that are behind them to solve this equation. Next case is around solving societal challenges through healthcare. So as a part of the ecosystem that we are serving, there are a lot of villages that are remote and are in need or in desperate need of healthcare. So this is where our connectivity part comes into picture, whether for local hospitals or local dispensers, where local populations can get some kind of service from a doctor or from a remote doctor to serve or to have an advice, consultation, or any kind of type of service that can help alleviate this service. So a use case here is in Kenya, and I'll show the video around it.
So the Maasai Wilderness Conservation Trust works in Kuku Conservancy, in Kuku Group Ranch, about 240 kilometers from Nairobi, 65 kilometers from the nearest hospital. So it's a pretty remote area given the fact that we don't have reliable transport. And unfortunately, it also happens to be dusty. And what we realize is that over time, it has an impact on the quality of life for the patients because it damages valves in the heart and leads to rheumatic heart disease. We started screening the pediatrics of the children. And once we've done the ECG, then we share it with the cardiologist in Nairobi, and they're able to give us the expert opinion and what interventions we should do, and also on the follow-up clinic. Previously, if you had to do this physically, you print the ECG and then transmit it to Nairobi, obviously you had the patient, but you had to wait for maybe 5 or a week for you to do that. But now with the internet connection, then it's instant. It's a connection that you make with people, I think humanity is always about being close to the other person, especially if they're suffering. And if you're able to offer some assistance in a positive way, impacts their lives, I think that makes it for me.
So imagine a lot of populations that are in the remote areas where they don't have to travel to main cities or main hospitals to get some kind of service. So just a connectivity can solve the issue. And we are doing that in a couple of countries around the world. Next case around education, which is one of the, let's say, the cornerstone of any population around the world. So in terms of education, we are bringing to local schools internet service and communication. And that means that these local schools can be informed, can have access to internet, and can communicate either with other schools, with other teachers remotely, or with other communities to get a sense of what's happening in the world, but also to get the proper education at par with other schools around the world. So our role is exactly to bring this peace and to help communities around the countries have exactly bridged the digital divide and have the same quality of service and same kind of schools around the footprint. Another case in Kenya as well. So video shows that.
We are in a Maasai land setting, very local setting. 99% of the total population here is purely original Maasais. We are some 60 kilometers from Loitoktok sub-county, the main town. We have 1,047 kids this year, up from 706 last year. This is because of the good performance we experienced in our school last year, being rated the second best school in the sub-county. It is through the changing of the attitude and the skills that the children get through the internet connectivity that also will change the perception of the community towards education. It has improved our livelihood, and it has also improved the teaching and learning process as a resource. because through that, learners from the local environment like this one are able to access the e-materials. They are learning like any other learner in the world. It has also helped in empowering these young children to realize their rights, because the e-materials that they get, they not only emphasize on educational matters, but they also emphasize on guidance and counseling, career development, and also the life skills. It is my hope we are going to create a generation, a generation with more skills, with more knowledge, with more expertise, and the attitude that it requires to move this country to the next millennium.
So I will end with the note that maybe for many of you, space tech is around satellites and very fancy things around the launches and orbits and very let's say difficult words. But in the end, we are bringing services to populations, to local communities, and to people in need of basic services around the globe. So we are here to serve and preserve the wildlife, nature, populations, and be closest to the communities wherever they are, whether they are in peace or at war, they are in need for basic services or for specific services, no matter where they are. Thank you very much. Yeah, can take. Maybe if there are questions, yeah?
Sorry, I had a couple questions, so I'm going to choose my favorite one. Is there a way for you guys to... Can you hear me? Oh, hello. Yeah. Is there a way for you guys to to measure your impact specifically on the livelihoods of people in indigenous communities?
Okay. Let's say on the qualitative aspect, yes, probably, because we can see exactly the needs and how these populations are improving their lives. So, for example, you bring in basic kind of service to local communities, either they are farming or doing some kind of trade. So these guys can communicate with the external world, sell their basic services, get basic education, get access to healthcare. So this, in a sense, can be quantified, but in qualitative aspect. We have as well some quantitative measures, and this is marked by not directly, but how many lives we were able to save, for example, but not directly to the local population to see what happens on the ground, because we are very limited in terms of resources, so we cannot go to every community, every village to assess what's happening. I hope that answers.
Hi, thank you. Great presentation. My question is about other technologies within the satellite industry. For example, Earth observation, high-resolution thermal sensors. I'm part of an organization called Satellite View that does high-resolution thermal sensor from space in LEO orbits. There's a huge amount of use cases that come from that. Could you give us a sense from an industry perspective, the importance of Earth observation and where you see the most important use cases are for climate and climate action?
So EASA doesn't operate specifically on this segment because we operate on the communication side, but nevertheless we are very aware about what's happening, and because these are sister companies, the ecosystem is very small. So we kind of complement each other in terms of service. So for example, you go to the agriculture, agri-tech. So you have sensors that can remotely sense what's happening in a specific farm, but at the same time, imagery is here to complement these quantitative measures and to, let's say, correlate if these things are really make good sense for engineers to make certain decisions. So this is where we complement this. This is just specific use case, but there are thousands of cases that I can cite.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sangeeta. Indeed, a very insightful presentation, and I must congratulate you for presenting it so well. My question is that you said that there is a safety and security that's been provided by satellite industry. So I would just like to understand more in detail how is the safety and security of human beings, especially these indigenous communities, is done with the help of technology, especially the space tech.
Okay. So to make it simple and to give a use case or a specific example, so these indigenous people usually are out of coverage or out of GSM coverage or out of terrestrial coverage. So you have the role of the satellite provider to bring in a basic communication. So what happens next? So in terms of a weather catastrophe, for example, or you have natural disaster, these populations have an immediate access to the local government, to the police, to the firefighters, to any other search and rescue type of organizations, sometimes to NGOs, and they can at least bring in this information and get immediate help in case there is a major disaster. So this is one of the cornerstones, but I can cite as well some other examples around security aspect.
Thank you for the good presentation. I'm Dr. Manisha from Amrita University, India. I work on IoT systems and wireless systems for fishermen, for the offshore communication system for fishermen. And what I have noticed in India is satellite systems, even though it is functional, but naturally cost becomes prohibitive for the fishermen to take forward. And that's where they are looking forward other solutions, or they are able to get connection only up to 15 kilometers from the shore. Whether you were also has experienced any of these challenges when you try to implement into the society, when the solutions has to be brought in, because naturally business models also is a very key thing. The second thing is we work in India on more than 12,000 plus communities for sustainable development goals on different areas, whether it is water, whether it is energy sustainability, different areas. Is there any presence of your work in India where we could collaborate also?
Thank you for the questions. I'd like to give specific cases in India, but unfortunately this is one of the most challenging markets for us. Hopefully we will be there in the next few months, and we'll be able to make an announcement that we will be able to serve in India in the future. But going back to the main examples, I think you cited the fisherman case. So most of the fishermen, I mean, let's say there are two types of fishermen. There are the coastal, basic coastal, that they have basically poor type of revenue, let's say an average to poor type of revenue. It's for basic living or just basic reselling. So these guys, they don't go beyond a certain area or a certain coverage area. So they need some kind of connectivity. So our role in some countries was to work with the government to bring in a service that will help these coastal fishermen to have a basic service, either in terms of satellite phone or a basic connectivity to send messages and to talk to search and rescue mission or any kind of government officials to have this type of security. I mentioned here Philippines. Philippines was one of the cases, but we have other cases like Vietnam and other countries. Second case around the IoT and farming and all that, we have already some cases around the agriculture and providing services for farming. Unfortunately, the basic, so space tech is a kind of an industry where it starts with the conglomerates and big enterprises that are aware about what's happening in terms of knowledge. But it takes several years and education and knowledge sharing to bring this knowledge to local farmers that there can be kind of service that can be provided to them at a very efficient cost, provided that they adopt it. It's not only the space tech part, but it's all the digital part that's comprised of software elements, sensors, devices, and also the connectivity part. So it's not always the space part that comes into picture, but it's the whole how you build the whole solution. And this is why we come with certain partners to provide this kind of services. But as I said before, there's always this challenge of educating these farmers, educating these small communities to adopt certain technologies. Thank you. Thank you.
Amine. Next up, I'm very excited to introduce Peter Houlihan, who is